She didn't look like someone who needed help. That was the first thing I noticed, the way she stood under the awning, arms crossed, the rain soaking her hair in thin, shining lines, pretending she wasn't cold. I should have walked past. I almost did. But something in the way she exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for years, stopped me. "Do you need a ride?" I asked. My voice came out steadier than I felt. She turned her head slowly. Her eyes, dark and knowing, met mine like she was weighing every reason to say no. Then, after a beat too long, "You sure you don't mind?" I wasn't sure of anything. The car smelled faintly of rain and her perfume, something quiet, floral, like jasmine left too long in the sun. She sat with her hands folded over her knees, gaze out the window, watching streetlights smear against the glass. Every few seconds, I caught her reflection flick toward me. "You're in my class, right?" she said finally. Her voice had that low, even tone that could either soothe you or slice through silence. I nodded. "Creative writing. Tuesday nights. Right?" She smiled faintly. "You don't talk much." "I listen." She laughed softly, not mockingly, just surprised. "People your age don't usually say that." The wipers dragged across the windshield, filling the space where words should have gone. I could feel the warmth from her arm, so close to mine that I didn't dare shift. Every nerve in me tuned to the rhythm of that silence, her slow breathing, the subtle hum in her throat when she swallowed, the faint tap of her finger on the window. At a red light, she glanced at me. Not a quick look, the kind that stays, tests, lingers. "You always this quiet?" I hesitated. "Only when I don't want to say something stupid." She smiled again, but this time it didn't reach her eyes. "That's a dangerous habit. Silence can say too much." I wanted to ask what she meant, but the light turned green, and the moment dissolved under the hum of the engine. Her street was empty, a stretch of old houses with leaning fences and flickering porch lights. When I stopped in front of her gate, she didn't move right away. The rain had slowed to a mist, soft against the windshield. "You know," she said, voice barely above a whisper, "I could have walked." "I know. Then why offer?" I swallowed. "Because you looked like you needed someone to." She looked at me then, really looked. There was something tired in her gaze, something that said she'd been offered help before but learned not to trust it. Still, she didn't turn away. The air between us thickened. I could hear the soft tick of the cooling engine, the sound of her breath catching for just a second. Her hand shifted, a small movement, like she almost reached for the door, or for me. I couldn't tell which. "Good night," she said finally, and the way she said it made it sound like a question. I nodded, but neither of us moved. The silence felt heavy, pulsing, alive. Then, from somewhere down the street, a car door slammed, sharp, real, breaking the spell. She blinked, turned back toward the window. "You should go." I watched her step out into the mist, the porch light catching the damp edge of her hair. She didn't look back, but as she closed the gate, I swore I saw her pause, like she almost did. And that silence followed me all the way home. The next Tuesday, she wasn't at her desk when class started. Her absence felt louder than the rain that night had. I tried not to look at the empty chair near the window, but I did, every few minutes. I told myself it didn't matter, that maybe she was busy, or sick, or just didn't feel like showing up. But when the door finally opened halfway through lecture, I felt my chest tighten. She slipped in quietly, hair pulled back, scarf damp from the cold. Her eyes caught mine for the briefest second before she looked away, pretending she hadn't seen me at all. After class, everyone filtered out, laughter, chairs scraping, bags zipping. She stayed behind, flipping through her notes like she had a reason to linger. I did the same. "Rough day?" I asked, closing my notebook slower than necessary. She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. Something like that. Her fingers brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. I noticed her wedding ring, or rather, the pale indentation where one used to be. Before I could think, the words slipped out. "You're divorced." She froze, not offended, just surprised I'd seen it. "Separated," she corrected softly. "It's been a while." I nodded, unsure what to say. She gave a quiet laugh, one that carried more fatigue than humor. "Don't look so guilty. I talk about it less than I should." We walked out together, the hallway echoing our footsteps. She hugged her coat tighter. I offered to walk her to her car, and she hesitated only a moment before nodding. "It's funny," she said, as we stepped into the chill air, "I used to love this kind of weather. Now it just feels empty." I glanced at her, the way her breath came out in soft clouds, how her voice trembled just enough to make me want to reach out. Instead, I shoved my hands in my pockets. "Maybe it feels empty because there's no one to share it with." Her eyes flicked toward me, sharp, curious, but softer than before. "You always say things like that." "Only when I mean them." We stopped beside her car. The street light cast a pale glow between us. She turned, keys in hand, close enough that I could smell her perfume again, the same jasmine warmth that lingered days after. "You shouldn't," she murmured. "Shouldn't what?" "Look at me like that." Her words hung there, suspended between defiance and confession. I didn't answer. Couldn't. She exhaled slowly, the sound trembling at the edge of restraint. Then, without meaning to, my hand brushed hers, a fleeting contact, skin against skin, accidental but electric. She didn't pull away. Not right away. The silence stretched thin. She stepped back first, the motion graceful but guarded. "Good night," she said again, but softer this time, like the word hurt to say. As she got into her car, she hesitated before starting the engine. Through the glass, I saw her glance toward me once more. And in that single look, tired, wanting, unsure, something between us deepened. Not spoken. Not safe. But undeniable. She started coming to class earlier after that night. Not early enough to look obvious, just enough that we'd be alone for a few minutes before everyone else arrived. Those minutes became something I counted on, even if we barely spoke. Sometimes, she'd ask about my writing. Other times, she'd just sit at her desk, flipping through papers, and I'd feel the quiet stretch between us, thin, fragile, dangerous. This time, she was standing by the window when I walked in. The morning light caught the edge of her profile, the curve of her cheek, the faint line at the corner of her mouth. She didn't turn around. "I read your story," she said. I stopped a few steps behind her. "You weren't supposed to." "I know." She finally turned, holding the paper with my handwriting all over it. "But I did." Her tone was soft, unreadable. My story wasn't subtle, it was about a woman who reminded me too much of her. "I shouldn't have written it," I said quietly. "No," she said, taking a step closer, "you shouldn't have." Her breath brushed my neck when she said it. I froze, the air between us thinning again, full of things neither of us could afford to say. "You have a way of seeing people," she murmured. "Too clearly." "Is that bad?" "It's dangerous." She took another step forward, close enough now that I could see the faint pulse at her throat. I wanted to move, to say something, but every part of me stayed still. Then, the door opened. A classmate stumbled in, laughing into his phone, mid-sentence. She jerked back instantly, pretending to adjust her scarf, while I turned toward the desk, as if I'd been looking for something. "Hey, Professor," the guy said casually. "Didn't know class started early." "It doesn't," she replied, her voice perfectly steady. "You're just on time." He grinned, sat down, oblivious. She met my eyes for half a second, a silent warning, or maybe a plea. The next hour dragged. Every word she spoke to the class sounded too normal, too careful. I couldn't stop noticing the small tremors, the way she avoided looking my way, the slight shake in her hand when she picked up her mug. When everyone finally left, she didn't look up. "You should go," she said quietly. I didn't move. She sighed, eyes still fixed on her papers. "You don't understand how this looks." "I don't care how it looks." She looked up sharply then, her gaze full of something between fear and longing. "You should." A pause. Then, softer, "Please." I took a step forward anyway. "You keep saying that, but you don't mean it." Her lips parted, no words, just a tremor of breath. For a moment, I thought she'd reach for me, or I for her. The distance between us collapsed to inches, her hand hovered near mine, her eyes locked on my mouth. Then, her phone buzzed. The sound shattered the moment. She turned away quickly, answering it with a voice too calm to be real. I stood there, heartbeat still in my throat. When she hung up, she didn't look back. "Next week," she said quietly. "Don't be early." But as I left, I felt her eyes on me, following, lingering, like the silence wanted to pull me back. It was raining again, not a drizzle this time, but the kind that blurred everything into streaks of grey. She was still in the classroom after everyone had gone, standing by the board, erasing words that no longer mattered. Her hand moved slower than usual, her hair damp from the walk-in, her shoulders drawn tight under her cardigan. I hesitated at the doorway. "You'll catch a cold," I said. She turned slightly, recognizing my voice before she saw me. "You don't listen very well, do you?" "No," I admitted. "Not when it comes to you." Something flickered across her face, annoyance, maybe. Or something that scared her more. "You can't keep," she stopped herself, pressing the marker into the tray. "You're making this harder than it should be." I stepped closer, slow enough to let her stop me. She didn't. "What if I don't want it to be easy?" I said. Her breath caught, barely audible. "You think this is some kind of game?" I shook my head. "No. But it's the only time I feel awake." Her lips parted, then pressed shut again. She looked past me, toward the rain-streaked window. "You don't know what you're asking for." I did. And yet, I didn't, not completely. All I knew was the way my chest ached when she turned away, and how the room felt wrong without her voice filling it. She moved to grab her bag, but her hand trembled. The strap slipped, and I caught it before it hit the floor. My fingers brushed hers, again that current, sharper now. She didn't pull away this time. For a moment, we just stood there. The sound of rain against the windows filled the silence. Her breathing grew shallow. "Say something," I whispered. "I can't." "Yes, you can." Her hand still rested in mine, trembling. I reached up, slowly, to brush a strand of hair from her face. My fingertips grazed her cheek, and she closed her eyes like it hurt. "You shouldn't do that," she murmured. "Do what?" "Make me forget I'm supposed to be the one who knows better." Her voice broke on the last word. I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, that same soft jasmine, now mixed with the clean scent of rain. Her face was inches from mine. "Tell me to stop," I said, my voice barely more than breath. She didn't. The silence between us pulsed, alive, dangerous, inevitable. Her eyes opened, searching mine for a reason not to fall. I saw the wall behind them, duty, loneliness, wanting. "Please," she whispered, but I couldn't tell if it meant go away or don't stop. I leaned in, not quite touching, just near enough to feel the warmth of her breath ghosting against my lips. Then, a sound. A knock on the door. We froze. Her hand slipped from mine, her expression snapping back into control. "You should go," she said softly, almost pleading. Do you want me to? She didn't answer. But the look in her eyes, that flicker of fear and hunger tangled together, said everything words couldn't. The knock came again, louder this time. I took a step back, breath unsteady. She turned away, pressing her palms against the desk to steady herself. When I left, neither of us said goodbye. But in the reflection of the window, I saw her touch her lips, as if to make sure nothing had actually happened. She didn't come to class the next week. No text, no email, no explanation, just an empty desk and the faint echo of her voice in my head. The absence felt heavier than before, like something had shifted and I wasn't allowed to know why. By the second week, I couldn't take it. I found her office door half open, the light on, the smell of coffee and rain mixing in the air. She was there, sitting behind her desk, reading something that wasn't really holding her attention. When she looked up, I saw the exhaustion before the surprise. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but not unkindly. "I've been worried." "I'm fine." She wasn't. Her voice had that brittle edge, the kind that comes from holding too much in. I hesitated in the doorway. Did I do something? Her eyes darted away. "It's not about you." But it was. I could feel it. There was a pause, that kind of silence where the truth is one breath away. Then she exhaled, as if surrendering. "Someone saw us," she said quietly. "That day. In the classroom." My stomach dropped. "Who?" "It doesn't matter." Word got around. She rubbed her temple, avoiding my gaze. "It's not the first time people have assumed things." The air between us turned cold. "They think." She cut me off. "They think too much. And I can't afford to feed it." I took a step closer. "So you've just been avoiding me?" Her tone sharpened. "I'm protecting you." "From what?" "Rumors." "From me?" The words hit harder than I expected. I opened my mouth to answer, but she stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You don't understand," she said, her voice trembling now. "I've already been through this, being the mistake someone else regrets later. I can't," her throat caught mid-sentence. "I can't do that again." I moved closer, slow, careful. "You think I'd regret you?" She didn't respond. Her hands gripped the edge of the desk like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I reached out, resting my hand over hers. She froze. The heat of her skin under mine felt like a confession neither of us wanted to voice. "Look at me," I said. She did. Her eyes were glassy, fierce, scared. "I don't want to be protected," I whispered. Her lips trembled. "You're too young to know what that means." "Then let me learn it the hard way." The silence stretched again, dense, charged, irreversible. She stepped around the desk slowly, every movement hesitant, deliberate. When she passed me, her shoulder brushed mine, a fleeting touch, enough to leave heat where her skin met mine. "You need to go," she murmured. But her voice was softer than before, her breath uneven. I didn't move. "Please," she said again, and it sounded less like a command, more like a prayer. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then, with a quiet, breaking voice, she added, "If you come back tomorrow, I won't be able to stop this." It was late when I went back, too late to pretend I just happened to be there. The building was empty except for the faint hum of lights, and the sound of rain against the tall windows. Her door was half open again, just like before. She was standing by the bookshelf, her back to me, one hand pressed against the edge like she needed it to stay upright. "You came," she said quietly, without turning around. "I told you I would." A pause. "I was hoping you wouldn't." "I know." When she finally faced me, her expression was unreadable, somewhere between relief and surrender. The air felt heavier, warmer, charged. I shouldn't have said that, she murmured. About tomorrow. It wasn't fair. I didn't come for fair. Her eyes flickered, torn between anger and something else entirely. You don't understand what this could cost me. Then tell me, I said. Tell me, and I'll walk out. The silence stretched. She didn't tell me. Instead, she stepped closer, just one slow, uncertain step. The distance between us shrank until I could see the way her breath trembled. I wanted to say her name, but it felt wrong to break the quiet that held us. You make me forget, she whispered. Everything I've built to keep people out, you undo it with one look. I don't want to undo you, I said softly. I just want to know you. Her eyes closed for a moment, like she was listening to the sound of something collapsing inside her. When she opened them again, she was closer. So close that I could feel the warmth of her through the air. Her hand lifted, stopped halfway, then touched my face like she was testing whether I was real. Her fingertips grazed my jaw, trembling slightly. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. But you want me to be, I said, barely audible. Her breath hitched. That's what scares me. We stood there, suspended, everything unsaid pressing at the edges of the moment. The rain outside grew louder, harder, until it drowned out the world. Her forehead rested against mine. The smallest touch, but it felt like the whole room was holding its breath. I could feel her heartbeat through the space between us, uneven, fast. If we cross this line, she whispered, there's no going back. I don't want to go back. Her lips parted, a sound halfway between a sigh and a sob. My hands rose, not to pull her closer, just to hold her there, in that almost touch, as if we could stay suspended forever. Then, she stepped back. Just one step, but it broke something open inside both of us. Her voice was barely a breath. You'll hate me if I let you. I won't, I said. But I'll hate myself if I leave now. She looked at me for a long, breaking moment, eyes soft, wet, unguarded. Then, finally, she smiled. Not the polite kind. The kind that comes after surrender. And without another word, she reached for my hand, morning light spilled through her office window, cutting through the quiet. The rain had finally stopped. Everything outside glowed, wet pavement, soft sun, the kind of calm that comes after a storm. We hadn't moved from the couch where we'd been sitting for hours, not saying much, just breathing in the same small space, letting the world shrink to the sound of her heartbeat. Her head rested lightly against my shoulder, her fingers tracing circles on the back of my hand. Every now and then, she'd stop, as if catching herself, then continue again, slower this time. You're too calm, she said eventually, voice muffled. I smiled faintly. You're not. She laughed quietly, the sound small but real. I've never been more terrified. I know. A pause. Then she lifted her head, eyes still soft, but clearer now, like the fear was still there, just quieter. I keep thinking about what happens next. I met her gaze. We just start with now. She studied me for a moment, searching for something, maybe a sign I'd realize the weight of what I was asking. You'll get tired of being the one who understands. Maybe, I said. But right now, I just want to understand you. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. You sound too sure for someone your age. I laughed, rubbing the back of my neck. And you sound too scared for someone who's supposed to be wiser. That earned a real smile this time. For the first time, she didn't look away when I reached for her hand. Our fingers laced together naturally, no hesitation, no trembling, just quiet certainty. Her skin was warm, her grip steady. I don't know if I can promise you anything, she said softly. I'm not asking for that. Then what are you asking for? I thought about it, really thought, before answering. Just to stop pretending we don't already care. Her eyes glistened. You make everything sound too simple. It doesn't have to be complicated to be real. She exhaled slowly, her hand tightening around mine. The silence that followed didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt full, like everything we'd been afraid to admit was already understood. After a long moment, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead against mine. It wasn't a kiss. It didn't need to be. I used to think silence was what loneliness sounded like, she whispered. And now? Her eyes opened, close, calm, steady. Now it sounds like peace. Outside, the world moved again, footsteps in the hallway, the faint hum of life returning. But inside that room, time stayed still. When she finally stood, she didn't let go of my hand. Come on, she said softly. Let's go before the rain starts again. We walked out together, not hiding, not rushing, just walking. The quiet between us wasn't loud anymore. It was enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?